Did France really surrender to the Nazis without putting up a fight? Did Hitler actually invade Russia in the middle of winter? And did the Nazis actually come close to building a nuclear bomb? Alright, let's try a new transition today. Let's get to it. Goodness, I love that transition. Anyway, let's get on with one of the most common myths about World War II. That being that Hitler invaded the USSR in the middle of winter. Now, I believe that this is so common due to the fact that so many Soviet soldiers froze to death during Operation Barbarossa. But in reality, Operation Barbarossa was initiated in June, well in the middle of summer. So, I say that myth is completely busted, because obviously we all know June is not a part of winter in the Northern Hemisphere. Myth number 2 is that the French surrendered without a fight. Now, this is not true in the slightest. I have a French friend who we were once talking about this a while back, and he made a very good point. It was that the French have a reputation for being horrible fighters and just otherwise surrendering all the time because of just such a bad reputation they have on the battlefield. In World War I, the Germans never made it to Paris. In World War II, they steamrolled through all of Europe. It wasn't just France. But the world has this view of France that they're just horrible fighters, and it's not true. Even after they were conquered and they surrendered, there were dozens of underground guerrilla groups and resistance groups hiding out in the woods and in the swamps and all across the entire country. I mean, they even tried to assassinate like multiple high-ranked Nazis. So this myth that the French were just horrible fighters and otherwise just bad at war is completely false. Okay, this next one is kind of understandable. It is that all Germans were Nazis. Now, the Nazis were a political group, okay? There was a Nazi party, just like the Republican Party or Democratic Party or what have you. But once they came to power and they pushed their ideology so far, they tried to convert the entire country of Germany and pretty much really all of Europe to, for lack of a better term, Nazism. And this is ingrained, this idea that every German was a Nazi. But it's interesting to think about, really. Because, like, not every American is Republican or Democrat. The entire country's not one or the other. Again, there were resistance groups in Germany. Not everyone was a Nazi, okay? I'll leave it at that. This one is, it kind of works into our first one about France. And one coming up. That is, the Jews didn't resist the Nazis. This isn't true. While throughout the Holocaust and World War II as a whole, many Jews, they were rounded up and sent to the camps, yes. But many were actually able to get away from the Nazis and escape. And they ended up joining or forming these resistance groups and guerrilla fighter groups. They became guerrilla fighters. I mean, who knows what could have happened if after D-Day and the Allies came through France and the rest of Europe, if the Jews and the other guerrilla groups and resistance fighters formed with Soviets and former French army soldiers and who knows, hadn't assisted them. These people liberated towns and villages, and they gave incredibly important and valuable information to the Allies. So these people they didn't just sit there and let their neighbors be taken away. Alright, now this one's a really weird and otherwise awkward topic. That being Hitler, well, the myth is that Hitler was just a bad leader. And while yes, of course, obviously he was a maniac and psychopath and completely loony by the end of his life, really. But he did make some pretty good military decisions throughout, especially his earlier times in leadership. Time as a leader. So Operation Barbarossa was not a good idea. I mean, invading the largest country on Earth while you're fighting Britain and there's a risk of America coming in, that was a bad idea. But that was really after all of this. I mean, Blitzkrieg, for example. Those tactics are still used to this day. He and his generals conquered all of Europe and North Africa. That's bonkers. Most people wouldn't have been able to do that, but he was able to only because of Blitzkrieg. This lightning war. Completely unheard of at the time. So yeah, while we have this idea that Hitler was a bad leader, and of course he was a bad person, but he was actually a pretty decent military commander. Now this one's really just a misunderstanding, really. It's that the SS, or I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Schutzstaffel. I really don't think I am. But they were the only ones responsible for the Holocaust. Like the German Navy or the Wehrmacht or whatever, they weren't responsible for it at all. Their hands were clean. That's not true. Yeah, the SS were considered the elite of the elite. But they weren't the only ones who had this duty, or this job, really. I don't even call it duty. The Wehrmacht had just as much of a hand in it. And the Gestapo, especially. I mean, they were really the ones who did all the rounding up. And it was just, it was a wicked, horrible, evil team effort. Alright, so this one is, it's more of an alternate history, really. I mean, alright, the idea is that the Nazis would have won the war had they taken Moscow during Operation Barbarossa. And while it's an interesting scenario to think about, it really just doesn't make any logistical or any sense, for that matter. Because the Red Army, yeah, they had some trouble putting up a fight at the beginning, that's for sure. I mean, the Germans steamrolled through Ukraine and obviously Poland. It was a collaborative effort, but that's a story for another time if you don't know it. But they steamrolled through a good portion of Russia before the Red Army was really able to fight back. So, even if by some miracle, well, not miracle, but miracle for them, that they made it to Moscow, the Red Army, I mean, we all saw Stalingrad. It would basically be another Stalingrad, if Stalingrad occurred on this timeline at all. Because, think about it, it's a whole urban, really. I mean, it's a city. It's a really, really big city. So, plus, the Red Army was focused on protecting Moscow. It would have been Stalingrad times 10 all over again, really. Would have been the exact same outcome, and the Nazis would have been destroyed by the Red Army either way. This one's another bit of a hypothetical. That being the Nazis, or Germans really, because we covered that not all Germans were Nazis. The Germans almost built a nuclear bomb. The idea is that had they had more time, then they probably would have, well, probably, theoretically, could have built a nuclear bomb. But this is just incorrect on multiple levels, even theoretically. Because, first off, yes, while Hitler ordered the construction of an atomic bomb, they were struggling to even get a shipment of heavy water to Germany for the scientists to try to turn into an atomic bomb. If you don't know what heavy water is, it's basically the key component to making an atomic bomb work. And the second thing is really a grammatical issue in this idea. A nuclear bomb. No. There's a difference between an atomic bomb and a nuclear bomb. I'm not going to go all scientific on you, but basically, the nuclear bombs didn't come in until the Cold War. The ones that were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima were atomic bombs. Little boy, and little man and big boy, no, big boy and Anyway, I'll get the name straight later. Anyway, where was I? Ah, yes, the atomic bombs. Yeah, the Germans were just having trouble getting a shipment of heavy water into Germany in the first place. The resistance groups in pretty much every country that they were trying to get these shipments from, that they had captured, those resistance groups were hard at work, blowing up the boats that the shipment was coming in on, or train tracks, or what have you. And at this point, they really weren't trying to fly heavy water anywhere. Because, well, even regular water, it's very heavy, very fast. Anyway, they're just having a really hard time, and even if they did have more time, it probably... The idea that they could even do this, it's unlikely at best, just because of where their technology was. They can make big, scary guns. I mean, the Tiger tank is a prime example. But really effective ones, not so much. And now, the myth we've all been waiting for, aka the one I hinted to earlier in the video, is this. The French... I forgot what the myth was. One moment, please. And I'm back, okay. The myth is, the French did nothing, after they surrendered. There we go. I'm losing it. I'm tired. It's been a long day, okay? Please, hit that subscribe button, okay? I do this all for you. I'm not making any profit off of it. Please, subscribe. Please. But anyway, the French did nothing after they surrendered. This is not true. Again, I spoke of the resistance groups. And the other, just guerrilla groups, and groups of citizens and ex-military alike. Really just banded together to fight the Nazis. It's really interesting. And that's really... I've really all talked about it prior, so that's all I have on this one. Hey guys, me again. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'm really sorry I haven't been able to upload recently. Long story short, I broke my toe and I've been on and off crutches in a boot, but all that's over with, so I should be back on a regular upload schedule. And without further ado, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.